Welcome to our new build here at Adventure Kings, where we're going to take this 200 Series Landcruiser and turn it into a country crossing, track-eating, all-round weapon in just 8 hours. This right here is the first episode in our new YouTube series, 8 hours from stock to rock. Well, from nearly stock to rock, that is. So we did cheat just a little bit. The Cruiser, as you can see, has already had a suspension lift, it's already got a big set of tyres on it, and it's already got a bull bar, particularly because we're all about driveway DIYs here at Adventure Kings, and those kind of things just don't make sense to do in your driveway at home. Now, you're definitely going to want to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell on this one, because we're going to be releasing all 4 episodes of 8 hours from stock to rock free right here on our YouTube channel, and you will not want to miss a thing. So why 8 hours? Well, why not? I mean, everyone loves a challenge, right? Or rather, everyone loves watching bullheads on YouTube trying to tempt challenges. And we figure, what better way to shake down all the accessories and modifications we're going to bolt onto the Cruiser than to head bush tonight and go camping and four driving for the weekend. So right now it is just past 8 AM and we're aiming to hit the road by 4 PM. See how we go. Now, the other thing that we're aiming to do with this build is prove that you can build your dream rig at home in your driveway. You don't need special tools, you don't need a workshop, and you don't need to be a mechanic. All you need is some basic hand tools, a bit of flat space, and the willingness to give it a go. Righto, well, the clock is ticking and there is zero time to waste. So let's jump inside, I'll chuck the roller door down, then we'll get stuck into it. So before we get started, let me introduce you to the team. So this right here is Joel. He's the owner of the 200 Series and an old mate of mine. He's been camping and four driving all across Australia for years now, and up until recently, he had a big GU coil cab that's now moved on to its new home to make way for this 200 Series. Now, Joel, what I want you to do first off, please, mate, if you can go get a texter, I want you to circle every part on the Cruiser we're allowed to touch with greasy hands.
There's not going to be many left. Well, we've got to look after.
Because yeah, we've just got to make sure we're doing this right, that's all. So next in line is a bloke that most regular viewers will definitely recognise, and that's Khan. He's our resident 12-volt tech head. He loves auto electrical stuff, and he's here to deck out the Cruiser with a full 12-volt system. Now, Khan, I just want you to remember, mate, we're doing this right.
Yeah.
So I want you to practice your best lick, twist, and tape connections, all right?
Righto, okay.
Sweet.
Just for you.
And then third in line over here, we've got another bloke who regular viewers will no doubt recognise, and that's our young gun here at Adventure Kings, Mitch. Now, there's 2 things you need to know about Mitch. The first is he's about 8 foot tall. The second is there is no one out there who's more addicted to camping and four driving than this young fella over here. So his job here at Adventure Kings is to keep our cars running, swap products on and off as we change and go out testing different products. Now, Mitch, I want you to promise me, mate, you won't skimp on the tech screws today, because we've got to do this one right.
I've got a whole bag of them over there.
Perfect, and don't use them all though, because I definitely need some for my use at the end of the day. And then there's me, Brenno. Now, my job in this is to eat pizza, make bad jokes, try and remember to install at least 70% of the gear onto the car that we're supposed to, and constantly lose that one tool that I just put down, I swear, like 5 seconds ago. Righto, boys, heaps to do. Now, I've made a list, that way we don't miss anything, and I reckon we just start picking some jobs and getting stuck into it. Now, I'm thinking, Khan, do you want to start on the platform roof rack?
Sure, yeah.
If you can do that, mate, so that way, once that's on, we can put the rooftop tent on, all that sort of stuff. Mitch, can you start on the drawers, please, mate?
Yep.
Also, I want you to do one of those cool triple drawer setups.
Okay.
So we'll get a third drawer on the right-hand side, and there's also, if you dig around in there as well, there's a second fridge slide, so we'll do one of those cool double action fridge slides. They're cool, those things. And Joel, I reckon, how about we pull the bull bar off and we'll do the winch and the spotlights.
Yep.
And obviously, the most important thing, I'm looking at myself here, do not scratch it, because Joel has told me that if it gets scratched, whoever scratches it gets to be the little spoon on the camping trip.
I'm going to go scratch it.
And righto, boys, let's get stuck into it. So here's a handy little trick when you're installing a winch. These square nuts, they sit inside the winch here. Now, if you've got to lift your winch up and twist it around, those nuts always fall out and they just make it such a pain. So a little bit of masking tape over where the nut goes. Make sure that it doesn't fall out. Just like that. Now, something that I learnt years ago that's proved itself true time and time again is when you're working on four-wheel drives, if you think you're doing something to save yourself some time, it's almost always going to come back and bite you in the butt later on. What I mean by that is a perfect example here. We've taken the bull bar off. Yeah, you could probably try and jimmy the winch up, then we've got to put the spotlights on, run all the wiring, but what did it take? 10-15 minutes to undo all the bolts, unclip a couple of electrical harnesses. That way we can bolt the winch on, bolt the spotlights on, lay all the wiring harnesses out super neat, cable tie everything so it's exactly where it needs to be. And I guarantee if you do it like that, you're gonna save yourself time in the long run. You can definitely see what I meant there about taping up those nuts so they don't fall out. So when you're lifting the winch up, it's just a piece of cake to bolt everything together. Now, a winch really is one of those modifications that's so easy to do, but is so useful. I just love having a winch on the front of a four-wheel drive because it means you get that confidence when you're out four-wheel driving. You don't have to stress about every little bog hole or every bit of a hill climb you come to, whether you're going to be able to get through it or get stuck for hours. If you've got a winch, then all that means is you just get yourself out and you keep going. A cool thing about most winches these days is they use a standard mounting pattern for all 12,000 pound winches and 9,500 pound winches, and that's why it doesn't really make sense these days to fit a 9,500 pound winch, fit a 12,000 pound, because it fits into the same physical spot, fits onto the same, just about 90% of all bull bars out there have that same standard mounting pattern, and you obviously get so much more power. So 12,000 pound winch, always the go. So this right here is the Dominator Extreme 7.2 horsepower, 12,000 pound winch. Platform rack's looking good, mate?
Yeah, getting there. It's not too hard. I'm just following the instructions.
Yeah, nice. I like what you've been doing with the cardboard.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Once you put on the cardboard, because you're flipping it over and that sort of thing, just keeps it from getting scratched. It's going to look pristine once it goes on.
Yeah, nice. So the platforms together, you just got to do a few of the mounting feet now?
Yeah, they have a sort of a support strut at each end for strength, and then it'll be the feet. We're nearly ready to go on.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're doing the bull bar at the moment. When you're ready to lift it on, give us a shout and we'll give you a hand.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Last thing to do on the actual platform part of the roof rack before I get onto the feet. Two hot tips here. You've got these 3 holes here. If you do have an antenna on the roof, you can actually offset this support strut left or right to clear that. The other one is, just to make sure this is relatively square when you're installing or setting it up, I just use one of the pieces of packing cardboard out of the box, just as a really quick guide to make sure that this isn't off center. So that's about perfect there. You can just nip it up. Rack platform is done, so I'll get onto the feet next.
So these laser lights we're bolting on are dead set insane. They throw light out to almost 2 kilometers, and with this big 200, bigger is definitely better. So these lights are the King's 8.5-inch laser lights. Righto, so that's the winch and the driving lights bolted on. We've still got to wire them up, but we'll do that a little bit later on. I think while the boys are working on all these things, I might start putting the solar panel on top of the rooftop tent, because the size of this car, it's much easier, I reckon, to mount that while it's on the ground. So I'm going to put this 160 watt semi-flexible solar panel on top of the Grand Tourer rooftop tent, so it's charging the battery the whole time, even when you're at camp, even when you pull up at the shops, the battery's charging the whole time. So the way that I'm going to do it is use some core flute sheeting, use that as a bit of a spacer underneath the solar panel. It just protects the paint on the rooftop tent. But I've also got some nice flush bolts that I'm going to araldite to the top of the rooftop tent, and then I'm just going to use some really strong gaff tape right around the edges just to make sure there's no air gap underneath it. The solar panel is going to be bolted to the rooftop tent. Pretty simple install, and it's super effective. I've got the same sort of setup on top of my ute, and it's a cracker.
The first step in installing your drawers, of course, is to put the frame in. You got to get a mate to help you out, but I happen to find Khan and he'll do, I suppose. Now, depending on where your factory bolt holes are, you can readjust these bottom mounts on the bottom of the drawers here. I've had to drill my own holes and readjust this whole bracket on the bottom. The reason for that is just because of the positioning of the bolt holes in the back of the 200 here. Now, before we even bolt in the frame, we've got to chuck these wings on, because once it's bolted in, you're not going to be able to move it around. Now, you'll notice in this bag of bolts here, One of them's a countersunk head and the other one's a button head. The countersunk heads go on top of the wings through the plywood, and the other ones go into the sides of the wing here through the drawer frame. Now the drawers do come with the nailing key, but I find it's way quicker and easier to use an impact driver. Now quick tip when you're putting the wings on, put the removable one on first, bolt it down. That way you get a nice clean finish on the back and this will sit perfectly. Rightio, so the wings are on. They're all nice and tight and they look great. They actually act as like a template so you can actually line up the drawers properly with the bolt holes in the floor back here. So now I'm just going to tighten all the bolts up. The drawers will be nice and secure. Rightio, so the frame is all bolted in, nice and solid, not going anywhere. Next step, to chuck the drawers in.
There you got me, Joe.
Yeah, good man. Just about to put the drawer stops in.
Yeah, so you don't lose your drawers again.
Yes, that's super important, actually worth noting. You need to put these in because I've made the mistake of forgetting to put them in. Stuck up on a hill, went to open up the drawer and it was full of gear and I almost went flying 20 meters down the hill.
In preparing to take these factory bolts out and fit our new platform feet, two things are important. Number one, make sure you're using a soft rag or something to put your tools on so you're not going to scratch the roof, particularly of Joel's nice new 200 series. Number two, when you're taking these bolts out, make sure you crack them both first. Inside there's a plastic bracket and if you completely remove one bolt, the second one will turn as you're trying to undo it. Could snap that bracket and you might end up losing the nut inside the roof lining, which you don't want to do. Those yellow plastic tabs in there are what aligns the bolts when you're putting them in, and that's what can snap off the inside of the roof, and then you can lose your nut in the roof lining. So again, be real gentle and crack both bolts before you try and take these off. There you go. That's all of them out. Super easy, took my time, nice and gentle. Crack both bolts, then they easily come out. Now I'm just going to clean these up really quickly, get ready to put those feet on.
Geez, the drawer's looking good, mate. You've been smashing through it.
Oh yeah.
You know the main thing you got to do when you put these in?
What's that?
You got to tighten them.
Now the way I'm going to secure my second fridge slide on top of the pre-existing fridge slide is I'm going to drill straight through the holes that are already on the fridge slide here. And the bottom of the Titan drawers have a nice little lip that'll come about 20 mil past the edge of the bracket here. So I'll grab a drill. Yep. Alrighty, so the fridge slide is completely done. Now we're going to set up the triple drawer set. The way we do that is just by simply placing this on top here. Now we're only going to do up the exterior bolts around the edge here, and we're going to bolt the third drawer through where these tie downs normally would be. Yeah, all good, man.
Well, that was a massive morning. Heaps done, heaps ticked off the list. We have done the drawers, the triple drawer setup, done that fridge slide setup with the two fridge slides. The platform roof rack's on, we've got the winch and the driving lights on. The driving lights are wired up, the winch is wired up. Now the boys are hooking into a pizza. It's lunchtime, we've got about 4 hours left. There's still a heap to go. So this brings us to the end of episode 1 of 8 hours from stock to rock. And if you want to know anything more about the gear that we fitted to the Cruiser this morning, I've got links in the description. Before I go, I just want to remind you to hit that subscription button, hit that notification bell, because you are definitely going to want to see episode 2. Catch you next time.